So this will be very different from any kind of video that I would make. The pace of it, the tone of it, all of that is changing. And it's because we have a discussion that needs to be had. Boxing games are dying. But I want to say this. I'm not mad at Undisputed. I'm not mad at SCI. I can't blame them. It's not their fault. But I'll tell you who I will blame. I'm going to tell you who I will hold accountable. I'm going to hold these companies that looks at the boxing game space, the genre. You can obviously see there's some sort of void that needs to be filled in this space. All of these companies that are looking, clearly seeing that boxing games is an open market. Anybody can make a boxing game right now. But instead of putting in the work to make a boxing game, they refuse to put in the effort to make one. Now, the counter to that some companies may bring up is, what if EA brings out a boxing game? I want to break this down. Back when boxing games were at its pinnacle, no company was bringing that up. You had Atari making boxing games. You had other companies besides EA making boxing games. If companies were so worried about what if EA brings out a boxing game, we wouldn't have games like Boxers Road 2. We wouldn't have games like Victorious Boxers. We wouldn't have a lot of these games that we have now if it wasn't for that mindset of, okay, yeah, EA has their boxing games, but we're still bringing out our own boxing game. Even Don King brought out a boxing game. Yeah, it was garbage, but that didn't stop them from dipping their toe in a market, and that was at the time where EA was running things. You didn't stop them. So why is it stopping you now? Because a boxing game haven't came out in 12 years? People have this concept that if EA brings out a boxing game, that it is essentially over for the boxing game that they made. So all the time, all the effort that they put into making a boxing game, it'll go down the drain, basically, right? One thing that I want to add into is that people are fatigued of EA. The only reason why a Fight Night would sell is for nostalgic reasons. But outside of that, people are starting to get tired of EA. EA have a combat sports game out right now. It's called UFC 5. And that was a highly anticipated game from the previous one. And it took them 3 years to make that game. First day it dropped, it was getting bashed everywhere. It was getting bashed because people felt like it was the same exact game. When do you know a game that goes on sale 2 to 3 months after it came out? That is a sign that shows this game isn't selling the way how it's supposed to. You never hear 2K go on sale within the first 2 to 3 months of the game coming out. That means that this game isn't selling the way how it's supposed to. And that's the reality of it. Companies need to understand, yes, does EA pose a threat? Maybe. But once again, it is for nostalgic reasons. There's people talking about a NBA Street, bringing that back. It's for nostalgic reasons. It's a reason why Undisputed, when it first came out, it had so much hype and so much buzz because it was a different perspective from the usual EA Fight Night series. And that is what people are looking for right now. The same thing with 2K. People are asking for a new NBA Live because they're getting fatigued of playing the same game every single year. So that's why I bring up, yes, maybe EA bringing out a new Fight Night could potentially be a threat, but that shouldn't deter you from making a boxing game, because at the end of the day, people want a new perspective. People want new games to play. And right now, we don't have a new boxing game to play besides Undisputed. And Undisputed isn't even on consoles right now. So I can't even include Undisputed. We don't have a boxing game right now. Even if they bring out a new Fight Night, people are still going to desire more boxing games. I would have never made a boxing channel if it wasn't for ESBC. But now, since I started this journey, I want more company to bring out a boxing game. Why is it that it's only one company making a boxing game right now? That is abysmal. That is blasphemy. Only one company in the past 12 years has the balls to make a boxing game, but yet we put so much expectations on SCI to fix their game and to get their game right. Instead of doing that, put emphasis behind these companies. You have so many companies that could be making a boxing game. Some of these companies have a history of making boxing games, like Atari, like Sega. These companies have a history of making boxing games. Sure, it may not be sim boxing like Undisputed, or well, supposed to have been, but at least it's a new boxing experience. We are in 2024 and we only have one boxing game. This is why boxing games are dying. You mean to tell me in 2024, with the new technology that we have, with the uphill that boxing had, we had a huge year full of boxing events this year. So with all of that in mind, I'm sure the demand for a new boxing game is at an all-time high right now. You mean to tell me in 2024, with the technology that we have, nobody is stepping up to the plate to make a boxing game? But you'll have a company making their own basketball game, making their own football game. Two markets that's clearly being ran over right now. Basketball games is being ran over. 2K is killing basketball right now. EA is killing Madden right now. So you mean to tell me you have the courage to make a basketball and a football game but don't have the courage to make a boxing game? That's where my anger comes in at. Now, in retrospect, boxing is very expensive. I'm not gonna lie about that. Especially if we're talking about a realistic boxing experience. We're talking about the Unreal Engine and stuff like that. That stuff is expensive. I will not lie about that. That is very expensive to have in your game. But I'm sure making a game period is expensive. It's not cheap. I'm sure of it. But with all the experience that's out there in the world, with all the money, with all the investors, with all these things that are happening, you mean to tell me no one can cultivate a dev team to make a boxing game? I mean, look at Undisputed. SCI started with a small group. That is dedication. As much as I give crap about the game and as much as I have a love-hate relationship with the game, I gotta applaud the dedication of SCI. They started as a small team. They would have never thought this game would have got as big as it did. That's having a vision and trying to follow through with it. No matter what state the game is in, it's the fact that look at where they started at versus where they're at now. And that is exactly why I am pissed off at these companies that refuse to make a boxing game. Not only that, there's companies right now that wants to make a boxing game, but guess what? They're looking at Undisputed. They're gauging Undisputed to see if it's worth it to make a boxing game. But I want to leave off with this. For all the companies that fear failure from making a boxing game, I want to say this. Look at where Undisputed was at before the game came out. Look at how many views they was pulling. Mind you, this is a game that's only on PC as of right now. They didn't promote the game. They didn't drop no trailers. They didn't do any of that. But look at how much views they was pulling in on their YouTube before the game came out. That should tell you everything. That should tell you that there is a demand for a boxing game. Look at where Undisputed is at now. Having investors, having big orgs from Saudi, making deals, making partnership, getting everlasting your game. If boxing games wasn't worth it, if it was so risky, Undisputed should not be where it's at right now. Nowhere near it. They should not be in a position where they made a big partnership deal with an organization from Saudi Arabia. They should not be in that space to do something like that. That should tell you that there is a gain when you're talking about making a boxing game. That there is success in boxing games. You just got to see it. You just got to have the vision for it. But with that being said, leave your thoughts in the comment section below and let me know y'all thoughts and opinions about how do you feel about the whole boxing game space as of right now. Again, I feel like it's in a dying state, but that's because nobody's trying to make a boxing game outside of SCI and Undisputed. So I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at the people who are looking at making a boxing game, but is either too afraid or they're overlooking the whole space period. It's 2024. We can't get not one boxing game made besides Undisputed. But as always, I love you guys, and I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.